Hello, everyone. Thank you for letting me spend some time with you today. I do appreciate it. I appreciate all the likes, the shares, subscribes, and all those good things that you do to make it easier for people to find me. Um, got something today that I think you can identify with. So just hang on to that thought for a moment and we'll dig into it in a second. First, I want to tell everyone, if you're listening to the audio only, that's great. That's wonderful. Appreciate it. Just check us out on YouTube or Rumble. Give us a like, share, subscribe, all those things. You know what they do, right? Also, I need to remind everybody, books are available at authorjerrymitchell.com, or you can go to givegod90.com and follow the links. The advertisements are now out of the way. There we are. How many times... And I bet I don't think I'm the only one that does this, okay? I don't think I am. But how many times have you ever seen something or heard something, and the first thing that comes into your mind is, why didn't I think of that? What is it? I could have thought of that. Why didn't I think of that? It happens to me a lot, right? Somebody will say something, or I'll see a different way of doing something. I'm like, I should have thought of that. I'm smart enough to think of that. Why, it makes sense. Why didn't I do it that way? Why didn't I think of that? Right? Well, I'm going to expand on something I heard from a very good friend of mine that he came up with. Regular listeners know that Dr. Sean Greener has been a guest on this show. Both Meyer and I have been guests on his show. Check it out. Hey, it's True Words, Faith for Life. It's on YouTube. It's on Rumble. He does live. Just look at it. You'll see. I'm going to get into more about what he said in a couple of minutes. Well, maybe about a minute and a half. But first, I'm going to read a couple of passages. I'm going to start in Psalm 119:46. I will speak of your testimonies before kings, and I will not be ashamed. Now, David promises to speak the words of our Creator to other kings. He's not promising to speak to them about the religion of Judaism, probably because Judaism wasn't really a thing then. It hadn't been developed the way we know it today. He wasn't going to talk to them about the traditions of man or man-made doctrines that they'd come up with. He was going to speak the words that were given to all of us by our Creator. If we look at Jeremiah 1:7, but the Lord told me, do not say I'm only a child, for to everyone I send you, you must go. And all that I command you, you must speak. Now, here, Jeremiah will be speaking only the words he is given by our Creator, specifically to the people that he is sent to go and speak to, right? Just the words, just the words. And then 1 Peter 3:15. Always be prepared to give a defense to everyone who asks the reason for the hope that is in you, but respond with gentleness and respect. Now, Peter's advice to the elect, the people he was reading to, the exiles of the dispersion throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. And that's how he begins his letter, right? To tell the people, give them a reason for your hope, the trust that they have. And there's a lot of passages like this all over the Bible. Just go say the things I tell you to say. Talk about the things I've done, thus saith the Lord, right? But nowhere in the Bible you're going to read anything about defending your ideas or the way you have twisted the words of our Creator. Right? So what did Dr. Sean come up with that made me say, I wish I'd thought of that. I really wish I'd thought of that. It's two simple words that describe people. Okay? And these people don't speak the words of our Creator. They don't defend their faith, and most of them don't use respect, right? Or gentleness. They're not very gentle. Instead, they attempt to force their traditions. They attempt to force their man-made doctrines onto other people. And the term he come up with, two simple words: religious Rottweilers. Now, Rottweilers, typically a fairly large dog. A lot of times they're used as guard dogs. They can be used as protection dogs. They can be trained as attack dogs. But most of the ones I've been around, they're just as gentle as kittens. I mean, they can be just gentle as you ever, anything, really. And they're friendly most of the time. And they can be trained differently, but, so can anything else. Now, some people use them as patrol dogs for their property. They roam the yard, and anybody who comes in uninvited, they get met with a growl and some shiny white teeth, right? And it's a sign that, you might be someplace you don't belong, right? Other people use them as personal bodyguards. If somebody gets too close, they are trained to, do various things. First thing they do is they put themselves between what they have been taught is danger and the one they're protecting. When somebody gets too close, they might attack. You get the firsthand experience of teeth. And that's why I think he comes up with the term religious Rottweiler. Because when somebody challenges their belief, they attack. And it's usually very vicious, just like a Rottweiler would protect their domain. The people are attacking because you have intruded on their domain. The problem, though, with religious Rottweilers is they seldom try to protect or defend the words of our Creator. They protect and defend the traditions or their denominational doctrine. There is often a difference. And they're going to argue with the same viciousness and ferociousness, just like a Rottweiler who's chasing a thief away from a junkyard. There's really no difference. Really no difference. These folks will they'll say, "Oh, yeah, Jesus died on a Friday and rose on a Sunday morning." And they know you can't count 3 days and 3 nights in there. They know it. But never mind the facts. My mind's already made up, right? They'll argue that it's their church or their pastor. It's the only path to heaven. They will stand on thin air and swear they're standing on a rock. They will try to convince you that anything you believe, if it is contrary to what they think, you are wrong. Trust me, I have met these people. Religious Rottweilers are ferocious and they're dangerous because they're not speaking the words that the Creator gives them. They're attacking from their own thoughts, right? Or the thoughts of someone other than the Creator. Somebody's put something in their mind and they say, "Oh, this must be the way it is." They're not gentle. They don't respect your beliefs or your ideas. Some of them will talk about the love of Jesus with hatred in their hearts. Some will talk about forgiveness while, the whole time they're showing nothing but contempt for the one that they're attacking. When Dr. Sean came up with the term religious Rottweilers, my first thought was, I wish I'd thought of that. That makes so much sense. And my second thought was, I know people like this. I know people like this. I'm related to people like this. They say that they're defending the Bible. What they're really doing is attacking you with their traditions, their doctrine, the doctrine of their particular denomination, their own beliefs, what they think is right. And the sad part is, most of them really do believe, they're defending the Creator. They're defending. But what they're doing really is offending him. And it's all because you don't worship the same way that they do. And if you don't worship the same way they do, well, you're going to hell in a handbasket. Many of these folks, they will swear the law's been done away with, without understanding that without the law, there's no sin, because, as John writes in his first letter, sin is a transgression or a violation of the law. You see, without the law, there can be no sin. Without sin, there's no need for redemption or salvation. Without the law, there is no complete word from our Creator. Without the law, there isn't even a Creator, because the law begins, in the beginning, God created. If you do away with that part, you have no Creator. Without the law, there's only mankind's concept of what's right and what's wrong. And my idea of what's right and what's wrong may be different than your idea of what's right and what's wrong. It's the law that tells us, gives us the difference between what God calls good and what God calls evil. These religious Rottweilers will attack anyone who claims to love our Creator if they think you don't love him the same way they do. You know people like this, right? They don't come to you with the words of our Creator. They don't defend the words of our Creator. They come with words that are indefensible. Completely, totally indefensible. And they cause some people to be like them. And they cause others to reject our Creator, because, you know what, if that's the way believers act, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I've had that conversation with a lot of people here lately, because they wonder, well, are you Christian? And I say, well, not really. Do you see the way Christians act? Do you see the way they treat each other? Do you see the way they treat others? I don't want to be associated with that. Do you? Really? Seriously? You get my point, right? You get my point. If I don't, well, I should say it this way. If you don't believe the way I do and I attack you, what am I? What am I? Now, I will attack your traditions. I will attack your doctrines. I will challenge the way you practice your faith. But one thing I won't do is I will not challenge your faith. That is something that is absolutely personal between you and your Creator. And you need to work that out with fear and trembling. But hopefully I can give you the things to think about that will say, well, am I doing this right? Do I need to change something in my life? Do I need to adjust my lifestyle to look more like I'm living the way I am designed to live? So, I want to say thank you, Dr. Sean, for being the one to coin that phrase, because I get it. I get it. By the way, like I said, if you get the chance, check out True Word Faith for Life. It's on YouTube and it's on Rumble. He typically does them live. I think you're going to learn something from him. I think you will. And I really wish I would have come up with the term religious Rottweilers. Right? Just don't be one. Just don't be one. Don't be a religious Rottweiler. Something to think about. Until next time, I do wish you many, many blessings, everyone.